Hey guys, welcome back to Dark Matter Podcast. I'm Avalon.
And I'm Dominique. And today we're going to be talking about a topic that we've been wanting to get into for a while now, and that is aliens. And no, we're not referring to crop circle variety or little green men or anything like that. We're actually going to be taking a more scientific approach to look at whether there is a possibility of life on other planets, as well as what it might take for life to exist. Because I just think this subject is so interesting because we really don't know a lot despite all our technological advances. But yeah, I think this episode's going to be a lot of fun. So first, we wanted to get into what we believe, like do we actually believe in aliens? And I, for one, definitely think there's a strong possibility of life on other planets, and I was really excited for this episode because I've always been fascinated by outer space and the universe, and one of my favorite memories as a kid is going to Griffith Observatory in LA, and I loved it so much. And I don't know, like just seeing all the signs between all the other planets, you see different models, and it's just so interesting to be able to kind of really look at all the stuff that you obviously can't see through your naked eye. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to like the possibility of life on other planets, I tend to think it's just down to probability, because I mean, astronomers estimate that there are hundreds and thousands of galaxies, like actually probably more than that, like billions of galaxies in the universe. So to me, like, what are the odds that there's only life on Earth, on just one planet? I think that's very narrow-minded to think like, oh, we're so special that out of all the entire universe, we're the only ones that exist.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And like, I think we have a mutual love for space, which I mean, our podcast is called Dark Matter. If you don't know, dark matter is like a phenomenon in space. And yeah, I feel the same way. Like, I remember like I love going to Griffith, and I love like just learning about astrophysics and astronomy, because there's something that's like so hard for me to wrap my mind around, but I'm so interested in it. Like, I read a lot of books by Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yes.
You know, he makes really like digestible books that on like astrophysics, and it's just a really interesting thing to think about. And yeah, I think when it comes to aliens, I feel the same way. I just think it's silly to say like there's no way that there's aliens, because it's like, how do you know that?
Yeah.
Like, you just don't know. They probably, like, I think it's also silly when people represent aliens as like these gray, basically humans that are like gray skin and big eyes, and like, that's basically a human though. Like, aliens could be something that we don't even understand. Like, I remember hearing on this, I think it was a documentary about the multiverse, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And they're talking about like maybe in other dimensions or even just other galaxies, life is not what it is here. Like, what if it was just like a light, and that's like, or a sound or something, like, because we think of those things as not as living, you know what I mean? But like, maybe they would come here and not understand us to be living. You know, and plants are living too. Aliens could be like plants, or they could be so many different things. Right.
Or like, just creatures that we can't even
comprehend.
Yeah, think to imagine.
Yeah, or even something that looks more like robotic or something. Like, maybe we wouldn't understand it, you know? So I think that it's ridiculous. Like, so when I say I think aliens are probably, like, I probably think that there's aliens, I'm not talking about, people just get so, I feel like people get weird about that because they think I'm like talking about those like little gray men,
like little green men, like UFOs.
Yeah, and like the fucking UFO in Nevada or something. It's always out there. It's always in like the middle of nowhere. But yeah, I'm not saying I believe in all of those conspiracy theories or Area 51. I don't know what happens there. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying from like a statistical standpoint, from like just probability wise,
and like, actual science.
Like there probably is other life, even if it's not like we think. There's probably not other humans. I don't know. Like, I wouldn't think there's other like human like creatures with 2 legs and 2 arms, like the gray little guys that you always see. But there's probably other life. Like, I don't have any reason to think there's not. Yeah.
Of all the vast different solar systems and galaxies and planets in the universe, I just think it's very likely that there are other signs of life out there. And again, it might not even be like intelligent life or life that we can communicate with, but there are different forms of life, you know. And like we mentioned, we just do want to make it clear, most people assume when we talk about aliens we're thinking like little green men or whatever, or UFOs, but that's not what we're really talking about here. I don't really believe in alien UFOs. Like, obviously there are, like, it's just an unidentified flying object.
All UFO means is unidentified and it's flying.
Yeah, and obviously there has been video coming out of UFOs, but I don't think they're being piloted by aliens. Like, I think there's something definitely going on with that and we should investigate, but as for, you know, being like, oh, it's aliens from outer space, I'm very skeptical of that.
Yeah, I'm hesitant to believe that. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Oh, and then one thing I find interesting too is like the crop circle thing.
Yes.
I also don't believe in the crop circle thing. I mean, I think it's an interesting phenomenon and I do want to get to the bottom of it, but as to the whole alien conspiracy thing, I don't really...
Yeah, I'm not quick to say that's aliens. I don't get how crop circles, like...
I don't
remember watching an episode from Mile Higher, which is, like, we both love Mile Higher podcast, and they did an episode on crop circles, and I definitely was, like, baffled by it. I didn't know that much about it before I watched them.
Either, yeah.
And it is definitely weird. Like, it's hard to understand, and, like, I don't know how those got there, but I think it's kind of silly to just rush to aliens. Like, that's it. It's aliens. It's like, it could be so many different things, and, like, they also did mention people tried to do it, and they weren't able to replicate it, so who knows how it's done, but I don't know if aliens is the answer. We're not the type to say, like, aliens is the answer to everything. We're really just talking about there probably are aliens.
Right, yeah.
But, yeah, it's like, when it comes to here, I don't know if there's aliens here. And, like, UFOs, it's like, people say that, like, you can't say you don't believe in UFOs, because if I throw a plate in the air, that's an unidentified one. You know what I mean? Like, anything could be a UFO, but like you said, I don't believe that either, that they're piloted by aliens. Maybe, but I don't really believe any photo evidence anymore, because like,
it can be doctored
editing
so easily.
Like, it's so easy to edit things, even on your phone. So I don't really believe any photo evidence like that, and like, I definitely don't think we're not the conspiracy theory type. We're just talking about in general. So next we're going to get into the requirements for life, like what needs to exist for life to exist, and at least for on Earth, which it's obviously maybe it's different in other places.
Right, like obviously Earth is the only thing we have to base this off of.
It's the baseline that we have, but so every planet might be different, or different solar systems. But on Earth, there's 3 main requirements to exist. So first, there's energy from like a star or heat source. So obviously ours is the sun, but someday when the sun ceases to exist, so will life on Earth. So that would be a supernova. That's what supernovas are. And then we won't be able to exist anymore. Probably gonna happen pretty soon. The town 2020 is going.
Oh God. I was gonna make a joke like that, but then I was like, maybe I shouldn't.
Don't jinx it.
But honestly, I feel like that's a lot of. If you ever watch those videos, like, what'll happen to life on Earth, like, in the next billion years? But a lot of the times, the option is humans are wiped out, like, we're all dead. So maybe not so optimistic, but you know.
Hopefully not too soon. But that will happen one day. So for us, we do need like a heat source, and ours is the sun. Sometimes this is a small thing, but sometimes people will say like, oh, other planet's sun, but it's a star. Like our sun, if we just call it sun. So like, I just want to make that small stipulation.
That's so funny. That's something that when I took astronomy in college, that my astronomy professor was making fun of, is the fact that in other solar systems, like other suns and other moons are really named cool names, you know? Like, what's another sun? I don't even know. But like, let's say moons like Io, Callista, they have all these cool names, right? And then all we have is the moon, the sun. Like, that's it. We don't get a cool name.
Because we're so used to it being ours. Yeah, we don't think about other, like, our countries, other planets and solar system have the same thing, and they're just stars.
I kind of wish we had like a cooler name though.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Sol is that, or that's just
Sol. I guess, I don't know.
Yeah, it's just kind of plain.
Yeah.
But so we do need like a heat source, and then we need like elements heavier than hydrogen and helium, because carbon serves as a building block for complex molecules. So like isn't everything
kind of
built off of carbon?
Yeah.
And I think everywhere, because I know that's like throughout the galaxy you'll find, or throughout the universe you'll find carbon. Right. But at least here it's a building block for life.
Right, as well as oxygen, obviously, that we need oxygen to survive. Which again, I kind of question, what if there is a species on another planet that doesn't require this oxygen which I think is really interesting.
Right, and the next thing we need, of course, is liquid water. So it's necessary because it acts as a solvent for chemical reactions to occur, and oceans of liquid water have been found beneath the surface of Jupiter's moons, Europa and Ganymede, as well as Saturn's moon, Enceladus. Right, so there are like potential, like, and I know there was like that whole thing about water on Mars, or if there wasn't water, there was like, it was pretty contentious. I feel like it was a big debate about like, was there water or was there not?
Right.
But so like we need liquid water to survive, and there's a possibility that either other planets had it in the past or have the potential to have it one day. But that's even just in our planets, in our solar system. Let alone think about how massive the universe is. Like, there's probably another planet like Earth. Like
there are several Earth-like planets that they've found recently. I think in our galaxy they have found several others, but also in other galaxies as well.
Yeah, exactly. And the last thing you need is, of course, a habitable zone. So it's like the Goldilocks zone. So it's not too cold, not too hot. Because you probably heard before, if we were on, I guess our surrounding planets are Mars and Venus, right? Yeah, if we were on
Venus,
Mars,
it's way too hot.
Or yeah, whichever one's closer or farther. But
Venus,
okay,
closer,
if we were on, if we were closer, it'd be way too hot. If we were farther, it would be way too cold for us to survive.
Exactly.
So we're right in the area that we can survive in.
Exactly.
So you would need that as well. And its position is relative to the star and the size of the planet, of course. So like our sun, like if it was bigger, then we would need to be farther back. You know what I mean? So it's very particular, like where you have to be to survive. But then again, as we mentioned, like maybe that's different for other creatures. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Or for other life, because we can even survive in space in the suits and everything. So maybe there's other creatures like that like that's all they've ever known, or maybe maybe they can just survive like on colder planets or hotter planets, and they don't need any protection. So that's, again, it's like even these basic things, we can't even say that other planets have to have them because maybe it's different for them.
Right. So this is only based off Earth, obviously, because we are the only intelligent life out there that we've found so far.
Yeah.
And so, of course, there are people who do oppose this or are skeptical to the possibility of alien life. And, they ask, if they do exist, why haven't we found them yet? And I feel like to answer this question, we really have to take a look at the history of humans in comparison to the entire time span of the universe, because to most people it might seem that humans have been around for such a long time, but that's actually not true. So just for comparison here, the universe came into existence about 13.8 billion years ago, and for a long time it was actually dark, there was no sun, but 400 million years after the Big Bang, stars eventually began to form, and about 300 million years later, so did galaxies. So just imagine, in this time span alone, those are millions of years already happening. Yeah, hundreds of millions of years, and we haven't even gotten to the point of human life yet. Yeah, and then 8 billion years after the Big Bang, our solar system and Earth are finally born. So just for, comparison's sake, so the Earth was formed about 4.5 billion years ago, and for the first half billion of its existence, it actually was not habitable because it was constantly bombarded by debris from space, like comets and asteroids, which made it possible for human life to form, obviously. And then also, what is it called, not the invention of the moon, because the moon existed, but
it wasn't there.
It wasn't there originally.
It came into orbit, right?
Yeah, so from what I've heard, that there could have been a huge asteroid or something that actually collided, and all the space dust actually eventually formed the moon.
Oh, without the moon? Because if you think about it, I didn't even know this before. Well, I found out in the last few years. It's embarrassing, but the moon is inseparably tied to the tides of the ocean. Without the moon, I guess we would just be overrun by water. So again, it wouldn't be, or it would either be overrun or I don't even know, because without the tides, what would the ocean be like? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's very true. It's hard.
We wouldn't be able to live here.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine. I don't even know if life would have formed without our moon. So it's there are just so many.
It was just the perfect storm.
Exactly, and I feel like that's why a lot of people are skeptical too, because it's there are so many things that happened on this planet to make life possible.
But it probably could happen again.
Exactly.
It has happened again. But
and I feel like life wants to happen. It wants to
find a way, like Malcolm from Jurassic Park says, life will find a way.
Is that where it's from? Maybe that's what I heard.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah. So, and it's actually believed that signs of life appeared on Earth as far as 4.1 billion years ago, but it actually only existed as single-celled organisms for about 3.5 billion of those years. So, which backs up the idea that if we do find life on other planets, it could look completely different or be in completely different stages of evolution.
Or we couldn't recognize it. Because, if we saw a single-cell organism, I'm assuming that's microscopic. Or, you know what I mean? It's probably...
Or we would have to definitely dig in deeper and study.
We might not see it, and we might not feel it, we might not hear it, you know what I mean? So, there could be life out there, even if it's not as exciting as, these, weird, tentacly, whatever, you know what I mean? There might be life like that other places. I think that's very likely.
Yeah. And so to make it a little easier to understand this whole time thing, an analogy that I heard that really put it into perspective for me was that if you think of the entire timeline on a universe as like a yearly calendar, then humans would have only come into existence at like 11:59 on New Year's Eve. And that's how young we are in the grand scheme of things. Like, we had a whole bunch of things happen before we even came into the picture. So that's why, again, I really think that there was a possibility that maybe life on other planets had developed before us, or maybe they'll develop after us. You know, again, there are a whole bunch of options here.
That's so funny, because I was actually going to mention that analogy. I didn't know you were going to say that, because I saw that in like a documentary by Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he laid it out like with the graphics, and he was standing on like where we would be like in the calendar, like you're saying, and it was like literally like the last minute of the year.
Exactly.
Like, that's so crazy. Like, we are so new.
Isn't that mind-blowing?
It
the
is
fact
mind-blowing.
that we're really so small in the grand scheme of things. Like, it's so fascinating.
And this is also a random thing I thought of when you're talking about the single-cell organisms and all of that, is that, I don't know if we were going to mention this later, but when you look into space, it warps time. When you say space-time, it's because they become one in a way. It's hard to understand. I don't fully understand it. Obviously I do not fully understand.
Right, like we're trying to take very complex ideas and like try to
boil it down to our best ability, to the best ability that we even understand it.
Right, but, and we're no astrophysicists. We're no Neil deGrasse Tyson. Exactly,
but so space-time, like when you look into if you look at somewhere far enough away in space, it's going to be a different time. Like, you're going to be looking back in time.
Exactly, yeah. So, because obviously, if you're looking at the light from another star that's super far away, it could take, like, hundreds of years to reach you. So, the light that you're seeing has already gone. Like, it looks completely different.
That's what light years refers to.
Exactly.
Because you're looking years back. So, the farther you look, I think it works that the farther you look back, the farther back in time it is.
Yes.
So, someone said this to me once, and I was like, what the that
someone crazy, right?
Like, someone said that someone in like space, like let's say hundreds of millions of miles away, could look at Earth and see dinosaurs.
Exactly, yeah.
So there could be life out there that looks over and they're like, oh, well, there's not like people we can communicate with. Right. Or there's not like creatures we can communicate with, because they see dinosaurs, because that's how far back they see it.
Or that could go the opposite for us. Like, we could be out there looking for human life and we don't even see anything yet, but
Exactly. It's like lost in translation. So that's something to consider as well. That when I feel like when you think about that, that makes me really question that there's not aliens. Like, I really feel like there probably is. And even calling them aliens is kind of like silly. I feel like that's just like a word we use. Like, it's just life. That's what we're talking about, is life. Like, I feel like when aliens makes people think of a certain thing, like
tinfoil hat.
Other life. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They are technically aliens, but like just other life.
Yeah, but I mean, sometimes we call people from like other countries or something like aliens too. Like,
that's exactly what I was thinking about. The fact that we call people illegal aliens in America is so stupid. Like, literally, like the little green men. That's how like we talk about them. It's horrible.
Yeah.
But another reason that we might have not already found aliens is that, kind of like what we're talking about right now, the universe is freaking huge. It's very, very vast.
I read an article that it's still constantly expanding.
That's what dark matter is. Yeah. Exactly, because we know that dark matter is making expand, but we don't know what dark matter is or what's going on. That's why it's dark. Or, well, it's dark because it's black. But it's like, that's why it's so weird. And we don't understand it. Yeah. That's why our podcast is called it. So there's just so many galaxies out there, you guys. Like, the universe is just so huge that it makes it hard to believe that there's not other life out there. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure many of you guys have seen this famous photo from NASA of the Hubble Ultra Deep Field. So obviously we're going to have this on our website, and we'll probably put it in like the thumbnail or something so you can see. Like, we'll link, you'll be able to see it. Yeah. But you've probably seen this picture, and it's amazing because, so basically what happened, you were explaining to me earlier, is that they decided to fix this telescope in like one small patch. So it was just looking at this one patch of sky constantly, and it was for like about a year that they did this. And so they took a composite of 800 photos that were taken over like a year's period or whatever amount of time, and they found about 10,000 galaxies. So think about galaxy, not planet. Like, a galaxy is like the Milky Way is our galaxy.
Yeah, there's like the Andromeda galaxy, there's other
and
galaxies.
Then there's tons and tons of stars and planets within a galaxy.
Exactly.
They found 10,000 galaxies just in that little patch of space that they were looking at. Like, imagine how many how many more there are, because they only looked at one place and they only looked for, you know, the amount of time that they looked for, a year or whatever it might be. If they looked for longer, they probably would have found more.
Yeah, like,
you know
who
what I
knows?
mean? Like, that's just how many they were able to pick up in that amount of time. So I think that definitely gives like teeth to the idea that there's probably life out there, because like
Exactly.
how can there, it's just like I don't understand how people can think like there's so much life out there, or there's so many planets out there, so many solar systems, and there's no other life.
Right, like how are we the only ones in the entire universe? I highly doubt that, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think that's true. And astronomers have also confirmed the existence of thousands of planets beyond our solar system, which are referred to as exoplanets. So that's thousands of planets beyond our solar system, beyond the Milky Way.
Yeah, so this is outside. I mean, they already have found like other planets in our solar system that they haven't even like begun to classify yet. Obviously we know like the 8 here, but I think they have found more. Or I don't know if Pluto's considered a planet. In my heart, Pluto is a planet.
Pluto will always be a planet to us.
Yeah, but so that's even they found like in our solar system, but these exoplanets are like way beyond that.
Right. And data from NASA's Kepler Space Telescope, whose purpose is to identify and characterize Earth-like planets, which reside in, like we were saying, the habitable zone of nearby stars, so like the Goldilocks area, suggests that almost every single star hosts at least one planet, and some of these worlds might be habitable. So think about all the stars, like even just like when you like go to the desert or go somewhere that you can see stars really well, and you look up and see all those stars, that's just our naked eye, that's not even with the telescope. And then think about with the telescope how many stars you can see, and then think about each of those has planets, you know what I'm saying? And some of them are bound to have, like they even said, like they've confirmed that some of them are bound to have you know, habitable planets, like similar to Earth, that humans would be able to survive on. So it's hard for me to believe that there's not other life.
Right, and in comparison, I think I've heard this analogy somewhere, I don't know, so don't like quote me on this if it's like 100% true, but I heard that there are more galaxies in the universe than there are like actual grains of sand on Earth, which it's like so hard to wrap your mind around that concept, because it's obviously sand it's so
like immeasurable.
Yeah,
like
it's
we
immeasurable.
call it sand because it's like, I remember learning with these like non-count noun, because it's something you can't count. It's like water. You call it water because like you could count drops of water, but you wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, can you imagine trying to count like how many grains of sand?
Yeah, because it's immeasurable, and there's like. It's hard to understand. It's hard to even wrap your mind around.
Yeah,
honestly.
and I feel like that's also like why it's difficult for people to accept this, because again, it is so like wild. Like you can't even imagine that this stuff is true, but it really is.
Yeah, it's easier just to be like, well, there's probably not other life. We're probably the only ones, because sometimes it's scary to think about how big the planet is and how small we are, and just to really think about it all. Like it can be scary and weird, but like I think it's good to push yourself to think about these things, because it's like, I don't know, I think it's interesting. I think it personally. Honestly, if it makes you happier not to, then don't. Yeah. But I think we like it.
Actually, that's funny, because I feel like I've heard people say the opposite. Thinking about how vast the universe is, like we're literally like one tiny dot in the universe. Like I don't know if you guys have seen that infamous picture, like the tiny blue dot, like that's what we are. But some people actually find it comforting that in the grand scheme of things, we're not like super important, because you know.
Yeah, that stupid thing you did yesterday, like literally doesn't matter.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
In the grand scheme of things, like none of it matters. But
yeah, so I guess like it's interesting too, the emotions that it evokes in different people.
Yeah, that is a very good point, though. There's a whole emotional side to it as well.
Yeah, so given all these things that happen, it could be just that we haven't found them yet, or there could be a darker explanation, and this is where the Fermi paradox comes in. So basically to explain the Fermi paradox, in 1950 an Italian physicist named Enrico Fermi suddenly had a realization, and the SETI Institute kind of paraphrased this because it's a very long theory, but they said, quote, Fermi realized that any civilization with a modest amount of rocket technology and a modest amount of imperial incentive could rapidly colonize the entire galaxy. Within 10 million years, every star system could be brought under the wing of an empire. 10 million years may sound long, but is in fact quite short compared to the age of the galaxy, which is roughly 10,000 million years. Colonization of the Milky Way should be a quick exercise, end quote. So this kind of just backs up what we've been saying. Obviously the universe is very vast, and 10 million years sounds long to us as humans, but in the grand scheme of the entire universe, it doesn't mean a lot. So he's basically saying, I don't know, to me this is kind of diving into the science fiction version of things, because I've seen a lot of shows that are based off future and living in space. And it's very true that humans, at least, they have I don't know what it is. Like, they have an urge to colonize and to expand, as we've seen.
Conquer.
Yes, conquer. As we've seen in recent history, this is basically postulating that other intelligent life will be similar, and that if there was someone intelligent enough to do that, then they would have done so already. So, basically, that's the gist of what he's saying.
Yeah, that reminds me of Star Wars. That
exactly.
literally makes me feel like maybe Star Wars is not that
far-fetched
out there.
Yes.
Yeah. But based on this, our galaxy should be filled with life, and yet there were no observable intelligent civilizations anywhere. But math suggests that there should be many in our galaxy alone, so something else must have happened. So others came up with different possible hypotheses to explain the paradox, which generally fall into several categories. And one theory says that at some point between pre-life to higher intelligence, there's an obstacle that stops all or nearly all life from happening. So maybe, like we were saying, that single cell organism, like kind of in that phase, like they get stuck there, or they even regress after that.
Right.
And this suggests that at some point in the evolutionary process, there's a phase that's extremely difficult or unlikely for life to get through. And this is called the Great Filter.
Yeah, so this is a little bit scary. I actually learned about this in a history class in college, which is where I actually first learned about the Great Filter, which is actually a bit terrifying. So now, if this Great Filter theory is correct, that leaves us with three possibilities. So we're either rare, we're first, or we're completely fucked. So the first possibility is that we're rare. So this is the most optimistic alternative, I think, and it postulates that the Great Filter is behind us, which means that we're very lucky and special to have been able to make it through the filter and to reach this point in development. So they're saying that since we have not observed any other higher intelligent life, that there was a Great Filter or some obstacle that stopped life from developing this far.
No, it didn't stop us.
Yeah, but it did not stop us. We were able to get through that.
That's right,
filter.
baby. We're number one.
Exactly.
That's like the American mindset.
That is totally. And so the second option is that maybe we're the first to make it through the Great Filter, and this suggests that other species might be in the process of reaching higher intelligence, but haven't quite evolved as far yet. Or again, were not able to make it through that Great Filter.
Right.
And so the last and most terrifying explanation for the Great Filter is that it's somewhere in front of us, which pretty much, like I said, means that we're fucked. Because this option suggests that since something prevents life from evolving to our level or even like a higher level of intelligence, which people have theorized there are, like we are meant to evolve even further.
There has to be.
Yes.
Please, the people I meet, and please let there be a higher intelligence.
Yeah, so basically saying that since there are no other alien civilizations that's on the same level or even before us, it suggests that there might be a Great Filter in the future that will wipe us out. Which, again, I mean, it's 2020, you never know.
That is very scary. I don't think I've ever thought about that before.
Yeah.
Because it makes sense. Yeah, you're going through it, and it's like, oh, yeah, we're, like, special. There's just not a lot. Or, like, we're the first ones, which is kind of harder to believe. Or
yeah, especially considering we're so young as
exactly.
civilization.
But then the last one, that one really got me fucked up. Because I'm like, dude, some people are dumb. Like, maybe, like, maybe there is a Great Filter that's, like...
I don't know.
You know what I mean? Because, yeah, I feel like... I don't know what higher intelligence would look like, but I feel like we're not living up to our potential.
I think, again, this is diving more into, like, science fiction, because obviously this isn't proven, it's just speculation. So I think there's actually a thing called the Kardashev scale, which is, like, classifies it into 3 types of civilizations, but it's very complicated, so we're not going to get into that. But basically, we haven't even reached a type 1 civilization. Like, we haven't even reached, like, the first peak of, like, technology, which basically means, like, is based off how well we can harness our energy. So it could be that there were other civilizations, like type 3 civilization, which is right now is the highest classification. It could be that there were other civilizations that were higher than us before we even came to be, and perhaps they were wiped out by something, you know, which is terrifying. That's because maybe right now we're all like, oh, we're doing so great, we're so smart, and then like couple thousand years into the future, it's like, oh, just kidding. Like,
yeah, exactly. That's actually really crazy to think about.
Yeah, and again, pretty terrifying.
Yeah, that is very terrifying. So, next we kind of want to get into, will we ever find, like, them, like aliens or other life?
Right.
And what would they be like? So the big question is, obviously, will we ever find them? If there are if there is other life out there, what'll it be like, and can we find them?
Yeah.
And actually, some NASA scientists believe that we'll discover alien life within the next 20 to 30 years, which is
crazy.
Really hard to imagine, because like now after talking about billions of years and hundreds of millions of years, that's like not even a blink of an eye.
Oh yeah, no,
like 20 to 30 years, we're gonna be middle-aged by then. We're not even gonna be that old. Like, that's crazy. And again, let's manage our expectations.
Yes.
Alien life doesn't mean like we're finding Star Wars. It's not like Star Wars is now, you know what I mean? But we, it could be like organisms,
even
or
like simple organisms.
Yeah, or just something that we don't really think of as living.
Right. So maybe
or anything.
Yeah, it might not even be as exciting as we're all hoping. I think we're all intrigued by the idea that there is like intelligent life, but for all we know, it could be like simple life. So maybe it won't be that exciting. But honestly, this is like, I'm both excited and terrified by the prospect of finding alien life. And I mentioned before, that's the one thing I want to find out before I die. Like, that's the one mystery I want to know, is that if there is life out there. And I know some people are excited about that too. And yeah, but like I mentioned, it could be something that we didn't even imagine because like I don't even know where all these commonly perceived aliens, I don't know, I don't want to call them stereotypes.
Human, I think. I really think it comes from the human body, because humans are so egocentric that I feel like they're like, oh, if there's an alien, because I always say this, that it's funny to me that people are like, if there's aliens, they would look so different than us, and then you see a picture of an alien, and it's
like they're standing on two legs.
It's a human, 2 legs, 2 arms, a head,
with a big head,
big eyes, and they're gray skinned. But it's like, that's a human form. But like think about, this is what I try to like tell people in this situation. Like, think about a slug or a spider. That is so far from what a human looks like. A slug is like an amoeba, basically. It's just like a little like you know what I mean? Like, it's just a little like it's this thing.
It's just there. It's a glob.
Yeah, it's so far from what a human is,
but it's like, still life.
Exactly, and there could be something even farther from what a human is on other planets or in other galaxies. Like, we haven't even explored our oceans yet, and there's always weird shit that we're finding down there. Like sea slugs. Sea slugs are like my favorite animals. But they are weird. They're super weird looking, and some of them are crazy looking. And that's on our own planet. That's our own life. So imagine how different it could look out like elsewhere. It could be something we could just never understand. Like, they could be giants, or they could be minuscule, or they could be like anything you can imagine. It might exist.
Right. And then we mentioned before all the different requirements for life to occur on Earth, and we talked about the different elements that form life and form humans. But it always like it occurred to me like, but what if life happened in a different way? Because like I said, I feel like life wants to happen, despite the fact that there are all these specific requirements for life. One thing I was thinking, though, is that what if there is life on other planets that evolve very differently? What if they're made up of different elements and different chemicals? For all we know, they might not even need oxygen. Maybe they
might not be carbon-based.
Exactly.
Yeah, they might. Because, I mean, even fish breathe water, you know what I mean? They could breathe something completely different. Like, maybe they exist in space or something, not even on a planet. Like, maybe they could survive in space. Like, we have no clue.
Yeah, and then I feel like we mentioned, it doesn't have to be intelligent life. I feel like that's what people are maybe expecting or hoping for, but for all we know, like we said, on the huge scale of things, maybe there could have been intelligent life way before us. Maybe there could be life developing right now, but they're in the very earliest stages of evolution, and we wouldn't even recognize that, or like they wouldn't be intelligent life, So I feel like it's just so crazy to think how different things could be, because again, at this point we can only speculate. We have a little bit of the knowledge based on Earth, but again, like, obviously these are whole entire different galaxies, so the circumstances could be entirely different.
I think the scariest thing this has made me think about is like, what if we're not intelligent life? Like, what if that's not what we, you know what I mean? And it's kind of like what you're saying about the Great Filter, that if like, or like we've said, we haven't even made it to the first level of like civilization.
Yeah, so I think, I don't know, like I said, it's very complicated. You guys can definitely research it. We'll link that down below if you want to get more into it. But it basically says that really humans are not that above. Like, we think we are, obviously, because right now we're like on the top, like we're the alpha, obviously. But I mean, compared to maybe civilization that's like way older than humans have been around, then we're like ants to them. We're simple creatures.
That's what I'm thinking, because it's like, think about like when you're a kid, you might think you know a lot. When you're really young, like you might think you know a lot, but then adults look at you and they're like, oh, he's so silly. You know what I mean? Like they don't know anything yet. What if that's how we are with like other life? Like, because we could not be that smart. And like, even if you just think about how humanity goes, like with colonization and everything, like you're saying, it's not very productive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like all this, like there's always war going on, there's always fighting, and there's always competition. It's like, that's actually not productive to moving life forward.
Oh, yeah.
So when I think of like whatever the third classification, whatever that might be, like the highest level of civilization, maybe they don't have wars, maybe they don't have fighting, because you can't progress if you're constantly killing off your own people.
Exactly.
Because like people, like we have this term civil war, but like really in the grand scheme of things, any war is a civil war because you're killing off your own people, or you're killing off humans, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So, yeah, I feel like aliens would come here and be like, what the fuck?
Right,
like we're not going to
silly
colonize
children,
them. Like, they're colonizing each other and killing each other. Like, we don't even have to do anything, you know what I mean? So, yeah, it's just interesting to think about, like, if we got to that level where there wasn't any war, like, imagine what we could do. And imagine if there already were civilizations like that in the past.
Right.
Crazy.
I know. Like, it's just so crazy to think this is why, like, it's so interesting to us, because there is so many things that are unknown, and obviously in the search for, you know, intelligence, we're very curious about that.
Yeah, it sucks because my final point is that, like, it sucks because we know enough to know there's something out there, or know there's probably something out there, or know that there's more than what we're aware of, but we don't know enough to know what. Right. So we're just in this place where it's like, if we knew a little bit less, then we wouldn't even have reason to question it. But we have reason to question and think about what else is out there, but we don't have the information about what it is. So we're just left here, like you said, you're like, I just want to know before I die. Like, is there just like somebody tell me?
Yeah, or who knows? Maybe we'll never find out. Maybe we're not meant to know what's out
maybe
there.
we're not meant to know, but it's interesting to talk about. It's kind of like therapeutic to just talk about it, because it's like, nobody knows. Good. I'm not the only one.
But yeah, so that is the end of this episode. We hope you guys really enjoyed this topic, and we'd be really curious to see what you guys think. You know, do you think that life does exist on other planets? Yeah, anyway, we will be back next Monday with a brand new episode, and make sure you guys don't miss any episodes or announcements. So follow us on our Instagram at darkmatterpod, or our Twitter at darkmatter_pod. And as always, we will have all our sources, and I'll also link a video down below that incorporates a lot of graphics in there, so it kind of just helps you understand it a little bit more to see it. So if you guys want to watch that video, it'll be on our website, darkmatterpod.com, or if you're watching on YouTube, it'll be linked down in the description.
Right, and if you're listening on Spotify, be sure to follow us, or if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, it would be a huge help if you left us a review. Also be sure to subscribe if you like our video on YouTube, if you enjoyed watching. And if you enjoyed listening, we'd really appreciate if you spread the word about our podcast to friends and family. Alright, thanks for listening, guys.
Bye, stay safe out there.